My name is Lionel, and I used to think I understood my home, its sounds, its shadows, its quiet routines. I work long hours, and most nights I just want peace. But lately, peace feels like something I used to know, something far away. It began 3 months ago, not with a scream, not with a crash, but with my daughter standing beside my bed at exactly 2:47 a.m. every single night. At first, I didn't even wake up fully. I'd feel a small hand on my arm, soft breathing, then her whisper, "Daddy, I'm here." Nina has always been gentle. When she was younger, she'd run through the house laughing, knocking over pillows, dancing with her socks on the wrong way. But now she walked like her feet were heavy, like each step bothered her. The first night I sat up and looked at her face, I felt something twist inside me. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She was just watching me. Her eyes were wide and tired, her lips trembling just a little. "Why are you awake, sweetheart?" I whispered. She didn't answer. She only turned her head slowly toward the open doorway, stared into the hallway for a long moment, and then looked back at me. She climbed into my bed without saying another word. By morning, she acted normal. She even laughed at her cereal. But something in the back of my mind stayed unsettled. The second night came. 2:47 a.m. There she was again. Same posture, same staring, same silence. By the fifth night, I started keeping track of the exact time. 2:47 a.m., never earlier, never later. I tried asking more questions. "Did you hear something?" She shook her head. "Did you have a bad dream?" Another shake. "Do you want mommy instead?" A whisper. "No, just you." Amina, my wife, didn't see any of it. She works night shifts at the clinic, leaving before sunset and returning when the sun rises. She kept telling me Nina was just having a phase. "Kids get scared sometimes. She'll grow out of it." But kids don't show up at the exact same minute every night. Kids don't look over their shoulder before entering a room like they're making sure they weren't followed. I tried brushing it off. I told myself it was stress, long work days. Maybe I was imagining things, adding meaning where there was none. But the more I tried to calm myself, the worse the knot in my stomach grew. One night I stayed awake intentionally. I sat upright in bed, pretending to sleep. When the clock hit 2:47, I heard the soft sound of her door opening down the hall. Her small footsteps struggled, dragging slightly as if she didn't want to walk at all. She didn't run to me. She didn't call my name. She just stood in the doorway, staring at the dark behind her, before stepping inside. That was when I knew something was wrong. Something I couldn't explain, something I had to understand. And that was the night I decided to install a camera in my room. Setting up the camera felt strange, almost embarrassing, like I was spying on my own child. But I couldn't ignore what was happening anymore. Nina wasn't acting like a child afraid of the dark. She was acting like someone being guided by something I couldn't see. The camera was small, about the size of my palm. I placed it on top of the dresser across from my bed, angled toward the doorway where Nina always appeared. The blinking light felt too bright in the darkness, so I covered it with a tiny piece of tape. I didn't want Nina to feel watched. The camera was for me, not for her. That night, I slept lightly, half awake, half listening. My room felt colder for no reason. Even the hallway seemed quieter than usual, as if the air was heavy. I closed my eyes and waited for the sound I had memorized. At 2:47 a.m., her footsteps came again. I didn't sit up this time. I wanted the camera to capture everything without me interrupting. Nina walked into the room, moved beside my bed, and simply stood there until I pretended to stir. Then she slipped under the blanket and curled against me like always. The next morning, I woke up with a tightness in my chest. I didn't want to watch the video, but I had to. I waited for Nina to go to school and Amina to leave for her shift. I made myself a cup of tea I didn't really want and sat in front of my laptop, the camera card in my hand. When I pressed play, I expected something simple. Nina waking up early, walking silently, maybe rubbing her eyes or dragging her blanket. Something normal. But what I saw made my skin prickle. At first, the footage looked regular. My room was dark, only a soft glow from the nightlight near the bathroom. The hall behind the door was darker, a long shadow stretching into nothing. Then, I saw the moment Nina's door opened. She didn't walk out quickly like a scared child. She stepped out slowly, almost too slowly, like she was listening to something behind her. Her head turned slightly, not toward the camera, not toward me, but toward the darkness of the hallway. Then she moved forward, one small step at a time, her body stiff. I replayed that part 5 times. Each time the feeling got worse. It was like she wasn't walking on her own, like she was waiting for a signal I couldn't hear. When she reached my doorframe, she didn't enter right away. She paused. Her shoulders tightened. Her hand curled at her side. Then she took 2 steps toward me and stopped beside the bed. Her face didn't show fear, it showed obedience, as if she was following instructions. I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding. This wasn't sleepwalking, this wasn't normal. I needed someone else to look at it. That afternoon, I called Jonah. Jonah arrived that afternoon with a bag of snacks, thinking I'd called him over to help fix something in the house. He always tried to be supportive, but he believed logic could solve everything. When I told him I needed him to watch a video of Nina, he frowned but agreed. We sat in the living room with the curtains half closed. Nina was drawing in her room, humming quietly to herself. The house was calm, but the calmness felt thin, like a surface covering something deeper. I played the footage. Jonah leaned forward, elbows on his knees. He watched Nina step into the hallway, her slow movements, her careful pauses. When the video ended, he let out a long breath. She's probably sleepwalking, he said, rubbing his hands together. Kids do strange things when they're half asleep. I knew he wasn't trying to dismiss me, but something inside me tightened. Sleepwalking didn't look like that. Sleepwalking didn't involve pausing in a dark hallway as if listening to instructions. I tried explaining it to him, but Jonah kept repeating the same thing. It was normal. I didn't argue. There was no point. People don't believe what they've never experienced. After he left, I went to check on Nina. She was sitting on the floor with her crayons scattered around her. Instead of drawing her usual flowers and clouds, she had drawn a long black shape behind a little figure that looked like her. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "what are you drawing?" She didn't look up. "Just something I see." Her quiet tone made my chest tighten. Over the next week, things got worse. Nina stopped playing outside. She stopped asking questions. She stopped smiling. Every sound made her jump a little, especially footsteps. If I walked past her too quickly, she flinched as if expecting something else to follow behind me. Amina noticed the changes too. One evening, she knelt beside Nina and brushed her hair from her face. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked softly. Nina nodded, but wouldn't lift her head. Amina glanced at me with worry, but she still believed this was just a phase. She kept saying we should give Nina time, maybe talk to a child therapist if things didn't improve. But no therapist could explain what I saw in those recordings. During the days, Nina stayed close to me, holding my shirt, clinging to my hand, refusing to go to any room alone. She didn't even want to sit near windows or mirrors. When I asked her why, she whispered, "It can see me better there." One afternoon, while Amina was sleeping after her shift, I sat with Nina in the living room. She rested her head on my shoulder, quiet and tense. I tried comforting her, humming the lullaby she used to love. Then she whispered something I'll never forget. "Daddy, The voice doesn't like that you're watching. The words froze my blood. My throat felt tight, and I couldn't speak for several seconds. I didn't want to scare her, so I held her closer, keeping my voice steady. What voice, Nina? She pressed her face into my chest and shook her head. I can't say. It listens. I didn't push her for more. I just stayed there, holding her, feeling her small heartbeat against mine. I knew she was telling the truth. Her fear wasn't imagination. It wasn't a phase. Something was happening that none of us understood, and I knew I had to keep watching. For her sake. The house didn't feel like my home anymore. I had lived in it for years, knew every sound, every creak, every draft. But now, every night felt like stepping into a place I didn't recognize. It started with the doors. I would close Nina's door gently before bed, making sure she felt safe. But each morning I found it slightly open, just enough for a shadow to slip through. I asked Nina if she opened it, but she shook her head quickly, her eyes lowering to the floor. Then the lights began acting strange. The hallway bulb flickered at night, always once, always around the same time Nina woke. I changed the bulb 3 times. I tightened the fixture. I checked the switch. Nothing fixed it. The flicker came like a signal, steady and predictable. I didn't tell Amina everything. She already thought I was losing sleep and overthinking. She worked long shifts and barely had the energy to argue. Whenever I tried to explain, she would rub her temples and say, Lionel, you need rest. You're starting to scare yourself. But I wasn't scared of myself. I was scared for Nina. One evening, she refused to enter her own room at all. She stood in the hallway shaking, gripping the door frame with both hands. I knelt beside her and tried to speak softly. What's wrong, darling? Her voice came out thin. I don't like it in there. It's too loud. Loud? I asked quietly. What do you hear? She squeezed her eyes shut. Whispers. I picked her up immediately, holding her close, feeling the tense way she clung to my shirt. She buried her face in my shoulder, as if that alone could block out the sound. That night she slept in my bed again, curled against me like she was trying to disappear. During the day, I watched her more closely. She didn't run around like she used to. She didn't ask for her toys. She didn't even look toward the hallway when she walked. Instead, she avoided it completely, sticking close to me or moving only when I was in front of her. Amina tried to comfort her, but Nina pulled away gently, whispering, Not now. Not when it's near. Amina looked at me with confusion, not understanding what Nina meant. I couldn't blame her. Even I didn't fully understand. One afternoon, while Amina rested before her next shift, I checked the hallway again, closing each door tightly. I stood there listening, waiting, trying to catch whatever Nina heard. The house was silent, too silent. I realized then that I couldn't rely on chance or quick glances anymore. I needed to see everything, every movement, every shadow, every moment Nina walked at night. So I sat down at my desk, gathered the memory cards I had saved, and placed them beside my laptop. If I wanted answers, I had to watch the recordings differently, not casually, not once or twice. Frame by frame, second by second, I prepared myself as best as I could, even though a part of me already knew. Whatever I found would change everything. I sat at my desk with the lights off, the house quiet except for the soft hum of the fridge. The memory cards were lined up in front of me. I didn't want to do this, but I knew I couldn't protect Nina unless I understood what had been happening all these nights. I opened the first video and began watching, then the second, then the third. Hours passed. I watched Nina walk the same way, at the same time, stopping at the same place in the doorway. I already knew her steps by heart, but I wasn't studying her this time. I was studying the space behind her. On the eighth recording, something caught my eye, so faint I almost missed it. When Nina stepped into the hallway, her shadow stretched behind her, but something else stretched too. Not a figure, not a shape, more like a darker patch of darkness moving differently from the rest of the hallway. I leaned closer, my heart beat loud in my ears. I rewound the footage and watched again. The shadows on the wall shifted naturally, but that patch didn't. It followed her, not beside her, not in front of her, always behind her, always just a step away. In the recordings that followed, I noticed the same dark blur trail in her slow walk toward my room. The moment she entered the doorway, the blur stopped at the edge of the hall, just outside the frame, like something waiting. It didn't move like a person. It didn't have edges or shape. It was like the camera picked up a piece of the night itself, alive and watching. I pressed pause and sat back, my hands shaking. I had no explanation. No friend could explain it. No therapist could dismiss it. Whatever was happening was real, and it involved my daughter. I needed Amina to see it. Later that morning, when she came home from her shift, I asked her to sit with me. My voice was steady but low. She could tell something was wrong. I showed her the footage, the same hallway, the same steps, the same strange darkness moving behind Nina. Amina covered her mouth with her hand. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe for a few seconds. When the video ended, she whispered, "Lionel, what is that?" I didn't have an answer, but I knew what mattered. Nina isn't safe like this. Something is making her come to me every night. Amina wiped her eyes and nodded quickly. For the first time, she believed me, and she believed Nina. We decided right then that Nina wouldn't sleep alone anymore. We moved her bed into our room, cleared space for her blankets and toys, and kept the lights warm and soft. That night, she slept peacefully between us, her breathing calm for the first time in weeks. As she slept, I held Amina's hand, both of us watching over our daughter. Whatever had been following her in the hallway would no longer have her alone in the dark. For the first time in a long time, I felt like a father again, one who could protect his child, no matter how strange the danger was. And no matter what the recording showed, I knew one thing clearly: Nina wasn't facing this alone anymore. I stood there in the dim basement, the secret finally uncovered, my heart pounding as everything came full circle. My wife placed her hand on mine, the same steady grip she'd had since the moment she revealed the hidden brick. My son and his wife thought they could trap us, silence us, and take everything we built, but they underestimated the truth and the past they never knew. The evidence my wife had protected for 39 years, it saved our lives. It exposed their scheme, and it reminded me that even in the darkest moments, the people who love you will always leave a light burning somewhere. As the authorities led my son and his wife away, I felt no triumph, only closure. The basement door opened. Sunlight rushed in, and for the first time in hours, I could breathe freely. My wife squeezed my hand again. "We're safe now," she whispered. "Safe, and finally free." And now, if you've stayed with me through this entire story, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories just like this.